In the valley of Elah, a shepherd boy faced a giant and won. With a single stone, David brought down Goliath, and Israel routed the Philistines. The young man who came to the battlefield carrying bread and cheese left holding the head of the enemy champion. Now his life would never be the same. From that day forward, Saul kept David with him and did not let him return home to his father's house. The king who once asked, "Whose son is this young man?" now wanted him close. But something else happened that day, something quieter but just as powerful. Jonathan, the king's son, watched David stand before his father. He saw the shepherd's courage. He heard the words of faith. And something in Jonathan's heart bound itself to David's. The soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. This was no ordinary friendship. Jonathan was the crown prince, the one who stood to inherit the throne. David was a shepherd from Bethlehem. Yet Jonathan stripped off the robe he was wearing and gave it to David, along with his tunic, his sword, his bow, and his belt. It was a covenant, a promise sealed in gifts that said, "What I have is yours. My future is tied to yours." Saul gave David a high rank in the army. Whatever mission Saul sent him on, David succeeded. The soldiers respected him. The people admired him. He behaved wisely in all his ways, and the Lord was with him. Then the trouble began. As the army returned from battle, women came out from all the towns of Israel to meet King Saul with singing and dancing, with tambourines and lyres. They sang, "Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands." The words floated through the streets like a celebration. But to Saul, they landed like an accusation. He was very angry. This refrain displeased him greatly. They have credited David with tens of thousands, but me with only thousands. What more can he get but the kingdom? From that day on, Saul kept a close eye on David. The next day, an evil spirit from God came forcefully upon Saul. He was prophesying in his house, raving, while David played the lyre as he usually did. Saul had a spear in his hand. He hurled it, saying to himself, "I will pin David to the wall." But David eluded him twice. Saul was afraid of David, because the Lord was with David, but had departed from Saul. So he sent David away from him, and gave him command over 1,000 men. David led the troops in their campaigns, and in everything he did, he had great success. The Lord was with him. Then when Saul saw how successful David was, he grew even more afraid. All Israel and Judah loved David because he led them in their campaigns. Saul made a decision. If he could not kill David directly, perhaps he could arrange for the Philistines to do it. He said to David, "Here is my older daughter Merab. I will give her to you in marriage. Only serve me bravely and fight the battles of the Lord." Saul thought, "I will not raise my hand against him. Let the Philistines do that." But David answered, "Who am I, and what is my family or my clan in Israel, that I should become the king's son-in-law?" When the time came for Merab to be given to David, she was given instead to another man. But Saul's younger daughter, Michal, loved David. When they told Saul, he was pleased. "I will give her to him," Saul thought, "so that she may be a snare to him, and so that the hand of the Philistines may be against him." Saul instructed his attendants, "Speak to David privately. Tell him, 'The king is pleased with you. All his attendants like you. Now become his son-in-law.'" David protested, "Do you think it is a small matter to become the king's son-in-law? I am only a poor man and little known." Saul sent word back, "The king wants no other price for the bride than 100 Philistine foreskins to take revenge on his enemies." Saul's plan was simple. David would die trying to fulfill this bride price. But David was pleased. Before the allotted time, he and his men went out and killed 200 Philistines. He brought their foreskins and presented the full number to the king so he could become the king's son-in-law. Saul had no choice. He gave David his daughter Michal in marriage. When Saul realized that the Lord was with David and that his daughter Michal loved David, Saul became still more afraid of him. He remained David's enemy for the rest of his days. The Philistine commanders continued to go out to battle. Whenever they did, David met with more success than the rest of Saul's officers. His name became well known. Saul's fear grew into something darker. He told his son Jonathan and all the attendants to kill David. But Jonathan had warned David. He took him aside and spoke to his father. "Let not the king do wrong to his servant David. He has not wronged you. His actions have benefited you greatly. He took his life in his hands when he killed the Philistine. The Lord won a great victory for all Israel, and you saw it and were glad. Why then would you do wrong to an innocent man and kill David without cause?" Saul listened to Jonathan. He took an oath. "As surely as the Lord lives, David will not be put to death." Jonathan brought David to Saul, and David was with Saul as before. But peace did not last. War broke out again. David went out and fought the Philistines with such force that they fled before him. Then the evil spirit from the Lord came on Saul as he was sitting in his house with his spear in his hand. David was playing the lyre. Saul tried to pin David to the wall with his spear. But David escaped. The spear struck the wall. David fled into the night. Saul sent men to David's house to watch it and to kill him in the morning. But Michal warned him, "If you do not run for your life tonight, tomorrow you will be killed." She let David down through a window. He fled and escaped. Then Michal took an idol, laid it on the bed, covered it with a garment, and put some goat's hair at the head. When Saul sent the men to capture David, she said, "He is ill." Saul sent the men back to see David. "Bring him up to me in his bed, so that I may kill him." But when the men entered, there was the idol in the bed, with goat's hair at its head. Saul confronted Michal. "Why did you deceive me like this, and send my enemy away so that he escaped?" She answered, "He said to me, 'Let me get away. Why should I kill you?'" Saul fled. He ran to Samuel at Ramah and told him all that Saul had done. The shepherd who once played music to soothe the king now ran from that king's spear. The young man who once stood in the palace now hid in the night. The one anointed to be king had become a fugitive. But the Lord was with him still. In the next episode, David's flight will continue. He will say goodbye to Jonathan in a field of tears, seek help from an unlikely priest, and begin the long years of hiding in the wilderness. If this story moved you, please consider subscribing and sharing.